That's for not learning, not using it. It gets always good. Really vault. Two. Good. This is good. Okay. With the help of Hashem, we are learning Shabbos Daf Lamed Daled. We are towards the end of this amazing sugya of Daf Lamed Gimel Lag Ba'omer, the story of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We're going to be concluding this story. We're going to be learning a very important lesson that when a person feels that a miracle is performed for them, then they should feel obligated to do something special for the community, as we're going to learn that Shimon Bar Yochai did after we finished the miraculous salvation that Hashem brought for him and for his son. Now on Daf Lamed Daled, coming back to Shabbos, coming back to Hadlakas Neidos, we're going to learn about the three things that a man must say in his home Erev Shabbos before Shabbos comes in. There's going to be other instructions that a person should give during the Bein Hashmashas period. So we're going to be learning here Shabbos Daf Lamed Daled is one of the two big sugyas in Shas of Bein Hashmashas. The other one is in Pesachim. We're going to be learning about Shkia. We're going to be learning here about Shkia de Rabbeinu Tam. Really, Shkia de Rabbeinu Tam is on Daf Lamed Hey, but we will already mention the sheet of Rabbeinu Tam here on Daf Lamed Daled on Beis. We're going to be learning about Tikkun Mana, which means that one may not fix a utensil on Shabbos. However, that is a biblical violation only if the fixing is discernible to the eye. But there are certain activities that are not discernible to the eye, l'mashal, tithing, giving of trumas u'maisros. One may not eat, right, whether it's aday, whether it's kava, before trumas u'maisros were separated. Once you separated them, the food now is edible. So you fix something, but it's not a discernible fixing. That is something that is usher to be done midrabanan. We're going to be already speaking today about the din of hatmana. Hatmana means insulation. And as we will be learning a lot in the next Perek, in Kira, by Metoimim in the fourth Perek, there's hatmana, there's insulating a hot food in something, in a material that doesn't add heat to it. It's not moisav hevel. It simply maintains heat. That's one issue. We'll be learning a little bit about this on Daf Lamed Daled. Then there is a greater prohibition of insulating food, a powder food, in a material like salt, l'mashal, that not only maintains the heat, but it is moisav hevel, it adds to the heat, as we'll be learning. That is something that we may not do even the Erev Shabbos. We'll see the reasons why not. We're going to have an opportunity to review some dinim of Zav, all related to Bein Hashmashas, and we're going to learn various opinions as to what is the length of Bein Hashmashas, and all of these sugyas are really halacha l'maisa sugyas, because we deal with many areas today in our observance that are connected to Bein Hashmashas, as we will be seeing. All right, so let us start. We left off on Daf Lamed Gimel Amid Beis, the last word on the fifth line from the bottom of the Amid. Right after we had the conversation between the Rashbi, in our Gemara it says, with the son-in-law Rav Pinchas ben Yair, we know from the Zohar that really Rav Pinchas ben Yair was the father-in-law of Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, and this is something that is accepted as authentic, which is why many Gersois Pashat have a change in the words of the Gemara. But after we finished with the conversation between Ashbi and his father-in-law, Rabbi Pinchas ben Yair, now the Gemara continues by saying that Amar, meaning Rav Shimon Bar Yochai said, So since God made a miracle for me, Hazel, I'm going to go and ask in Milsa, I'm going to rectify. I'm going to remedy something for the benefit of the community. That's it. It's common sense. God saved me. God didn't save me for me. God saved me because I can be of a better service for the cloud, for the community. And where did the Rashbi learn it from? When it says in Vayishlach that Vayova Yaakov Sholem, that Yaakov came complete. And Amar Rav, that Sholem means many things. Sholem begufay, that he was complete in his body, even though he was wounded by the Sari Shalesav. But Hashem, right when the sun came up, and Penuel and Peniel, and he was completely healed. Sholem b'Mamonai, also a chiddush, even though he gave all of those gifts to Esav, that Esav at the end took. But he somehow, all of that, what he gave, came back to him. And the greatest is Sholem b'Teirasai. So you have a Yid that in 14 years he was learning in Shem Va'ever. Imagine what he acquired. And still he went and he worked for 20 years, Genufti Yoim v'Genufti Laila, and God blessed Yaakov Avinu that Torah was Mizboreches, not only was Mishtameres, that all of the Torah, nothing was forgotten by him. And Yaakov was so grateful, and he considered this a miracle. So what does it say in the next pasuk? Literally, it means he camped, right, by the city. And on that, Omar Rav, Vayichan comes from the word Chain. He bachained the city. It means he did something for the benefit of that city. One opinion is that Matbea Tikolam, he minted a new coin. Any little Medina that doesn't have its own currency is not chashav at all. Once you already have your own currency, that makes you politically an important entity. So Rav did that for the people there. Shmuel says Shavakim Tikolam, that he established marketplaces that they did not have beforehand. Rabbi Yochanan says Merchatzois Tikolam. All of this is connected to Vayichan Bidrush from Chain, that he gave Chain to the city. Why did he do it? Because God made a miracle to him. So therefore it concludes the question of the Rashbi. He made it to the Chachamim in that area. Is there anything important here that needs to be rectified? So so they told him, yeah. That there is an area here that we have a doubt whether there is tumah there or not. We are referring specifically to Tumas Meis. In other words, there was a question whether people were buried there or not. Let's not forget, my friends, that Midoy Raisa, Safek, Birashus Arabim, is tar. So really, by the letter of the law, since there was only a doubt, Kahanim would have been allowed to walk in that area. But Kahanim went beyond the letter of the law. And Daf Lamed Dalet. And therefore, because they went beyond the letter of the law, they put themselves into the pain of needing to circumvent that area, which was very inconvenient for them. So they asked Rashbi, you have Ruach HaKodesh, as we'll see, he performed a great ness. Only someone like you is able to rectify this for us, to ascertain whether there are people buried here, and if there are, maybe to mark exactly where they are. Because don't forget, once you know exactly where they're buried, then Kahanim can walk down that road. They just have to walk around and stay in the distance of 4 amas from the cave. But beyond that, if there's no trees overhanging, then they are allowed to walk there, which is what they did, as we will see. Okay, Amen. So now the Rashbi begins to act. Now, as it's mashma here from Rashi, he had a few doubts. He wanted first, before he was going to see whether people are buried here or not, he wanted to know whether there was ever a real Beis HaKvaras or Beis HaChaim in this area. And there was a Havamina by the Rashbi that he was going to exhume. If there would be a small amount of people buried there, he would have taken their bodies to another place. One is not allowed to do that from a already established Beis HaChaim. So Omar, first he asked, is there anyone over here that can ascertain that this street, this thoroughfare, was never an established Beis HaChaim? Let's start with that. Maybe no one could. So maybe there'll be a doubt. Maybe it's not just maybe one person is buried here. Maybe there was a whole Beis HaChaim here many, many years ago. So first, let's clarify that doubt. Elyahu Sava, so there was an elder person. This is not referring to Aliyah Navi, as we'll see. And he says, no, there was never a Beis HaChaim here. I'm an older person, and I remember that Kitzeitz ben Zakkai, Turmesei Truma. Turmesei is a certain legume, it's a certain fruit that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai was a kohen. A kohen cannot become tamei, nor can seeds or fruits of Truma, nor can you be matame it. And he used to cut over here and plant over here seeds from turmesim. is a raya that here was never a Beis HaChaim, which makes the problem lesser. Again, there might be individual graves that have to be dealt with, because then you cannot go over them. Perhaps you will exhume them, perhaps you'll find another solution, but at least he already knew from the testimony of this Sava that there was never a proper Beis HaChaim here. And now what did he hear? He heard from this elder that Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai, he would cut up legumes and he would plant the seeds in this area. So for some reason he felt that he's going to use this type of turmesei. It's called the lupine in English. He's going to use this fruit as the medium through which to perform mamash a miracle. So that Rashbi also cut up these legumes. And Rashi adds, and he threw the cut pieces of fruit on that road. And you know what that affected? Wherever someone was buried, their body miraculously began to move upwards. Not that the body left the ground, no, but the body moved upwards, and it caused for the earth on the top of the ground for it to become soft because there was movement underneath it. And therefore, wherever the ground remained as hard as it was before, then tahare, that was a raya for the Rashbi that no one is buried directly underneath it. Kahanim are allowed to walk over it. And but wherever the earth became soft, which was because of the miracle of the bodies moving up towards the cut shirayim of the Rashbi, so there's someone buried there. So Tzaime, he marked it with lime. He ended up not exhuming anyone, but he marked on the road the areas over which or underneath which someone is buried. So Kahanim can walk on the road. They're not allowed to walk, not over these tziyunim, nor near it within 4 amas of it. And Amachaya. And he salvaged the issue. Now, there happened to be many people that were buried there. So that was Yamamish relying on a ness over here. The Sava never dreamt that the Rashbi is going to perform such an act, and he's going to rely upon it. So Amaro Husava, that this elder now all of a sudden was against, he said, Ben Yochai, Beis HaKfaris. Look, not that this was ever an official Beis HaChaim, but there were probably so many areas where the earth was soft. So let's say there were 20 or 30 people buried, going down the length of the road. Here there's a grave, and there's a grave. And Shimon ben Yochai made this place start for Kahanim to walk. He wasn't happy with it. And he made this public protest. Now, the problem is that he could have protested, but don't forget, he was part of the group that the Rashbi used to find a solution. So Amalei, so Rashbi tells this elder person, I don't understand you. Ilmalei, it's not Hayisi Manu, there's Ilmali with an aleph, just an Ilmali with a yud. That's why the word loy is in parentheses, because Ilmali with a yud means if you would not have been with us, or even if you would have been present physically, but you wouldn't have voted in this procedure because Rashbi consulted with the Chachamim, including with that elder. Then you have the right to protest. However, Akshav, you were with us. And I asked people their opinion, and you agreed to what I'm going to do. And now you're protesting. Now the elder protested because he thought maybe it would be one grave. And now he discovered there were all of these kfarim over there. It was very weird that he made a road. It appeared to be in between a Beis HaChaim. So Rashbi gave him a very funny example. He said, people are going to say that even Zaynos, they braid one the hair of the other. Really, they're competitors. But they want that one should look nice because the nicer all of them look, then the more they can get for their services. So the same thing is one has to be machaba the other. Even if you feel that you were in competition, but if you're going to take away the kavod HaTorah, you're criticizing me in public when you were part of my group, it's bad for you also. That we have to learn how to respect each other. And Rashbi was upset with him, and as we find many times throughout Shas, that the Rashbi had the power of doing akpeda, Yav be'enei, and v'machnafshe. He gave a look at this elder, and this elder passed away. That's why I mentioned before that even though we have a Rashbam that says whenever Chazal use the words in the Gemara of a Sava, it normally refers to Elyahu HaNavi. Look over here, this is not Elyahu HaNavi. There was a Chacham, a great person who passed away. Now, Nafek L'Shuka, the end of the story is that he went into the marketplace. And all of this began with Yehuda ben Gadim, right? As we learned in the previous daf. Chaz Yehuda ben Gadim, he sees him walking around there. So Abba the Rashbi says, "Adayin yesh lo zeh ba'olam," such a person is still alive after all of the tzaras that he caused. So Nasan Be'enov, he gave a look at him, and here, not the Nachnashim, here the Asohu Gal Shalatzomis, he became a heap of bones. And Chevra, it's good to learn this. Rashi is Gavaldik. What's the difference when the Gemara says that a Tana looked at someone and he passed away, versus when a Tana looks at someone and they become a pile of bones? It means two different things. So Rashi, guys, remember, Shabbos Lamed Dalet, Gal Ma'atzomis, Kemes, Shenirkav B'Sore V'Nofel Mizman Harbe. Don't forget, this story began, right? What did we learn? He was in the cave for 12 years and then for 13th year. But he didn't go straight to the cave. That means that this story happened 13 years plus before now. That Ashbi felt that he did not deserve to live from then. So when he passed away, he didn't just pass away. His remains right away appeared 13 plus years old. Like a person whose body was already completely decomposed for a very long time. That's the pshat that he became a pile of bones. It's good to remember this because we're going to learn so many times about this concept about a tzaddik looking at someone else. Sometimes it's going to say v'nach nafshe, and sometimes it's going to say va'aso gal shalat shamayis. That's the klal. Whenever the sin for which he is being punished happened a long time ago, so then when he passed away, he didn't just pass away, but right away his flesh disappeared and he became kipshutai, a pile of bones. All right, coming back.
But we don't know why he actually lived the additional 13, 14 years, right?
Let me just go back over here. I can't see it. Danny, what are you saying?
I'm saying, why did he live the extra 13, 14 years?
Because God was more merciful. Chaim. It's great to see Kevin and Gamaldik. All right, so here we go. Holy Mishnah. Gimel, Devarim, Sarich, Adam, Umayim, B'tech Beisai, B'erev Shabbos, and Chashech. There are three things that a person has to instruct in his home. Erev Shabbos, guys, we had this many times. Remember, Im Chashecha means shortly before dark, shortly before Shkia. Number one, Isartem, it's a question. Did you already tithe? Now, hold on. Is that a question, my friends, that you only have to ask Erev Shabbos? What, Tuesday afternoon? You don't have to ask Isartem? Are we ever allowed to eat food that's not tithe? God forbid. So Rashi answers the question without asking it, like he does in Chumash. So Rashi says like this. During the week, even if something is not yet tithed, if you are only partaking a snack from it, it's called achilas arai, then in many circumstances you can eat it. Not at all, in many circumstances. However, Rashi here says that since Shabbos, there's a mitzvah to eat Oinik Shabbos, so there isn't something called snacking on Shabbos. Any eating on Shabbos, it has chashuv. So yeah, so on Shabbos, unlike the weekdays, if it wasn't tithed, you can't even snack from it. So hold on, why can't you tithe on Shabbos? So as we mentioned in the intro, even though you're not doing something that is discernible to the eye, but since pre-tithing, usher to eat, post-tithing, mutter to eat. So it's a rabbinic tikkun mana. You're fixing it midrabanan. Right? We had similar things by damages, if you remember. Going way ahead, right? There's a damage that is discernible to the eye that you have to pay for midrabanan, and then you have other damages that you have to pay for midrabanan. Because the fact, if it's not discernible, it doesn't have the same weight. Okay, so that's the first question. You have to ask your family, your wife, Isartem. Next question is Eidaftem. Did you set up an Eiduf? Now, there are two Eidufs, and we'll learn in the Gemara more details about them, which is very important. There is what we call an Eiduf Tchumen. Eiduf Tchumen means that in order for me to be able to walk outside my city, or if I took on Shabbos already out there, I'm in the desert, I'm out there in the woods, for me to walk more than 2,000 amas, midrabanan, I'm stuck. I cannot go more than that. However, if I put a meal already in a different location, as long as that location is within 2,000 amas from where I physically am, then it's as if I took in Shabbos in the place of my food, and I only have to count the 2,000 amas from my Eiduf. That's called an Eiduf Tchumen. That has to be done before Shabbos. There's another type of Eiduf known as Eiduf Chatzeres. Eiduf Chatzeres, one of the decrees of Shlomo HaMelech, means that if I have my home, and my home opens up into a courtyard, but the courtyard services and therefore is owned also by my neighbor or by my neighbors. Since it's all Eidush Hayachid, I am allowed to carry from my house to the yard. Midrabanan, since the house belongs only to me, the yard belongs to me and others. Or if the yard belongs only to others, it doesn't have the same ownership. Midrabanan, I may not carry. And the solution is that everyone that is sharing that yard and whoever wants to go from their homes into the yard, they have to participate by giving food, and the food is left in the houses of one of the people in that yard, and they all halachically become partners in everything for Shabbos. So to say, they all own everyone's homes equally, like they all own together the yards. That's called an Eruv Chatzeros. And as we'll see in the Gemara, which one does the Mishnah refer to will be very important. But he has to ask that question. And then the third is not a question, but it's a statement. And he says, he instructs, Hadliko esaner, light the candle. Obviously, it's an instruction because whether you tithe food or not, you can't see it. You have to ask, did you tithe? Whether an Eruv was placed 2,000 amas or closer, but away from here, I wouldn't know. I have to ask. Whether the candles were lit, I can see. If you see the candles lit, there's nothing to say. But if they're not lit, you don't ask, did you light the candles? You give an instruction, light the candles. Now, you have to know what tone to use when you make that statement, as we will see in the Gemara. Now, these three Devarim have to be said in Chashecha, meaning before Shkia, before dark. However, there is another period after Shkia, before dark, known as Bein Hashmashes. So let us start. The Mishnah is going to call it here Safek Hashecha. Safek Ein Hashecha. If it's in a time that we don't know whether it's dark or not, whether it's night or not, then we have to add, and in that period, Ein Ma'aser Asavadan. You no longer can tithe something that certainly needs tithing. And the Ein Matbilin Asakelim, you also cannot toivel utensils, which also may not be used before Tefilla. And again, Tefilla is a tikkun mana that's not discernible, and therefore it's asur midrabanan to do on Shabbos. And you may not do it even bein hashmashes. In other words, you may not violate a vade drabanan even on bein hashmashes. Certainly, you may not violate a do'eraisa bein hashmashes. What will be a yisur do'eraisa lighting the candles? They might lick in asaneres. However, says the Mishnah continues, but if you have food that you bought from a Amoretz and food that you buy from Amoretz from the times of Bayesheni, even though Roiv Amaratzim did tithe. But since a miyut the minkar did not, the Chachamim demanded for us to separate some of the tithings, but you don't know for sure whether you have to do it or not. So there's a doubt whether it's really needed. That doubt could be done in a time that the time itself is a doubt whether it's Shabbos or not. And you could take an Eruv, you could separate an Eruv during Bein Hashmashes. Now the obvious question is, the first three things that the Mishnah says you have to ask before Shkia, before Bein Hashmashes is Eiraftemi. And here the Mishnah is saying, Befedish, that you may make an Eruv even on Bein Hashmashes. That contradiction will be resolved in the Gemara. As we spoke out, one is referring to an Eruv Chatzeres, and the other is referring to an Eruv Tchumen in the opposite order. And finally, the Toimim Esachamim, if you want to insulate food, so as we mentioned in the intro, there is a hatmana, insulation, that's not moisev hevel. Lamashal, now you have a pot of soup and you put it in a blanket, you put it in a towel. The blanket or the towel will not make your soup hotter. It's going to keep the heat longer. That is something that you may not do on Shabbos, but you are allowed to do it bein hashmashes. There's another type of hatmana, whether you're using salt, we'll learn in the next pedic, other items that have as a natural koyach. Not only do they insulate the heat, they add heat. That is something that you may not do. Not only you may not do it bein hashmashes, you may not even do it Friday afternoon. The question is, why not? You're doing it Friday afternoon. We put our cholent on the fire Friday afternoon. We'll see in the Gemara why. Okay. So the three things that you could do bein hashmashes is isur demai, one type of eruv, and hatmana in something that's not moisev hevel. Now the Gemara begins speaking about one instructing his household members to light the Shabbos candles. You know, immediately, where do we see this from? Now you can say it's common sense. Yeah, it's common sense. You have to light the candles, but there is an actual verse that speaks about the importance of one instructing his household members to light the candles in the right tone. You should know that there is peace in your home. And we learned above already in this pedic that Neder Shabbos is connected to Shalom Bayis. And you should command your abode clearly. And therefore there won't be a failing. And even though the sages say that there are three things that you have to instruct, whether you have to ask, whether you have to instruct. You have to speak gently. You know why? They should accept it. Because if you say something which is emes, but you say it not gently, there's going to be resentment, and they're going to reject what you're saying. The goal is not for you to say the saying. The goal is for the people who listen to abide by it. So you have to say it nicely. Listen, I never heard him. I never heard the statement from him, but I know it alone. But the kayamtim misvara was when I learned the Mishnah. Yeah, I asked these questions bin nichusa. Say it in a way that the people that are listening will accept it nicely. Now, the Gemara is going back to the Mishnah. As we spoke out, the problem of an Eruv. The Mishnah seems to contradict itself. Amrat, you began. Erev Shabbos, im chashecha, my friends. Im chashecha means before dark, before bein hashmashes. Im chashecha in, safik chashecha, safik en chashecha loy. And then the Mishnah says clearly, safik chashecha, safik en chashecha. Yes, even during bein hashmashes, even after shkia, ma'arev, one could make an eruv. One may make an eruv. How do you resolve that contradiction? Now the answer is given by Rav Abba, Amar Abchia Barashi Amarav. It's common that when the Gemara is going to quote sayings from the same Amaida, one after the other, that we give an amanic, because people, the goal is to learn all this by heart. And it's easy to remember ideas. It's just very hard. Whoever learns Gemara by heart, the chachma is to remember what comes after what. Whoever learns something by heart, that's where you get stuck. Then someone else reminds you and you go. So that's why we have these mnemonics. Now there's something very unusual here. Normally a mnemonic, it's a siman of what we will be learning right now. So there's a series of statements of Rava, and we give a siman. Now we're giving a siman for statements that Rav Abba said in the name of Rabbi Chia Barashi, in the name of Rav, throughout the whole Masechta Shabbos. So this is a place where Ravina and Ravashi, who put the Gemara together, they really wanted to keep us on our toes. It's a relatively longer Masechta, and they're giving us a mnemonic. And let's see who amongst us can hold up until the end to remember to go through all of the simanim. So the simanim, one topic is begufei in itself. The other one will be zimra, right, a branch, or zimra means pruning. Sipara means a bird. Bechavla means a rope. Meilasa means a wool and a garment. So these are the areas in which this following Amayda made a statement. Let's start to only one statement we'll have over here. That demands for you to make an eruv dafka before it's dark, before bein hashmashes is the eruv tchumen. And Rashi reminds us what we will, God willing, learn in Eruvin. In Eruvin, we're going to learn a machlokes. Some opinions told that eruv tchumen is midoraisa. Remember that? Maybe 12 mil is midoraisa, 2 mil is only midorabanan. Even the opinions that hold that the whole Eruv Tchumen is only midrabanan, Rashi reminds us, but there is a certain samach on verses. So there's a difference between a derabanan that's based on verses, unlike other derabanans that are not based on any psukim at all. Interesting. A rabbanan that's based on psukim is a stronger isur derabanan, and therefore it may not be done bein hashmashes, even though you can argue bein hashmashes is a doubt. And if it's a doubt by a rabbinic, Safik Darabanan, you can be lenient. We don't say that on a Darabanan of Eruv Tchumen because it's based on verses. However, the Sefer of the Mishnah, speaking about the Rabbi Chatzeres, which has no scriptural support at all, it's a Midrabanan. It has to be done. But since it's only a Midrabanan on that level, on this lower level, it may be done bein hashmashes. And to point that out, Amar Rava, or Rabba, or Veh. So you have all these different gersois which are very important to get the flow. But let's read it as it says here, at least by me, in the Vilna Shas, it says Amar Rava, following, to point out how lenient we get by Eruv Tchumen. I'm sorry, by Eruv, leniencies that we get by Eruvin. Amar Loi Shnai, Seva Ariva Leino, this is Eruv Tchumen. Wow, even by Eruv Tchumen, we are allowed to be lenient. All right, and what's the leniency? That if two people told the same shliach, you place an eruv tchumen for us. Now, guys, remember that an eruv tchumen, I cannot have two eruv tchumens. I can only go 2,000 amas from wherever I took on Shabbos or from wherever my food was placed before Shabbos. However, if Reuven wants to go to the village which is to the right, and Shimon wants to go to the village which is towards the left, and these villages are beyond 2,000 amas from the Koren village, and putting an Eruv in between solves the problem. So yeah, so one person can make an Eruv in one direction, and the other person can make an Eruv in another direction. These two Chachamim appointed the same Shliach. Now the Shliach cannot be in two places at the same time. So by the time he went from one place and he came to the second place, it already went into Bein HaShmoshes. So this is what happened. So let's say Reuven's Eruv to the east, he put down before Shkia. And to Shimon's Eruv, he put down Bein HaShmoshes. He put down during the period known as Bein HaShmoshes, as we'll learn a lot more in Amud Beis. And now what happens is, let's go further. What happens if I place an Eruv, but the Eruv is eaten up? You know what the rule is? As long as the Eruv was there when Shabbos came in, it doesn't matter if the Eruv was eaten up. Question is when the Shabbos come in. So each person can be lenient. The one for whom the Eruv was placed by day, even if Nechal Eruv Bein HaShmoshes, and for him the Eruv was eaten Bein HaShmoshes. But the other guy was Bein HaShmoshes, his Eruv was eaten up the moment it got dark. Says Ravo, they both acquired their Eruv. In other words, that we allow for Bein HaShmoshes to be judged differently for each one according to that person's needs. The Gemara says, Manavshech, make up your mind, even HaShmoshes Yimamahu, then only Basra Likna, because at least you have to put the Eruv when it's day. So the last guy had the Eruv put by day. True, it was eaten up. Mishach HaShecha, doesn't matter. Shabbos came in. But the first guy whose Eruv was put before Shkia, but the Eruv was eaten Bein HaShmoshes. If Bein HaShmoshes is day, then the Eruv was consumed before it got dark. Then Loi Likni. And the Bein HaShmoshes is night, then Kama Likni, Basra Loi Likni. So the Gemara answers, Bein HaShmoshes is a Sfeika. And therefore, Usfeika de Rabbanon will be Le Kula. Very good. So this is according to our gears. In other words, unlike the answer of Rav Abba, that the Eruv Tchumim have to be placed before Bein HaShmoshes, Rabbi seems to be saying that even for Eruv Tchumim, right, whatever is more convenient, if need be, you could you can put the Eruv down Bein HaShmoshes. Only thing that I'm looking at, Nashi, I want to make sure that we're speaking about, Nashi says, Eruv Tchumim. Okay, so we have a machlokes of whether we have to be machmer by Eruv Tchumim or not. Or you can say that it's better to put it down during the day. But if you didn't put it down during the day, and if it was a b'diavad put down during Bein HaShmoshes, then it made the kingdom. Okay. Continues the Gemara for Amaro. Why do we say that ain toimnim davar she'eino ma'asav hevel mishach hashecha? Right, the fact that the Mishnah is saying that you are allowed to make hatmana, insulation, in an item that doesn't add heat, only Bein HaShmoshes, what does that imply? That you may not do it once it gets dark. Question is, why not? Why do you care if you take your soup off the fire already when it's dark and you put it in a towel? Answer, and you're not allowed to do that, even though it's not ma'asav hevel. Answers the Gemara Gezeda Shema Yartiach. Because if you will be allowed to insulate, you might be tempted, it's not hot enough. Don't forget, you're doing this later, you're doing this at night. Once Bein HaShmoshes, you're allowed to do it, but it's already dark. From when were we not allowed to touch fire? From Shkia. That means a long period passed, as we'll learn in the next Amid, whether it is 13 and a half minutes, whether it is 18 minutes, whether it is 9 minutes, there's a certain amount of time passes between Shkia and Seisak Yechadin. Now the food might have cooled off a little bit. If you will be allowed to insulate, you might end up heating it up and violating it Isun Midorais. So Abaye tells Rabba, well, if that's the reason, Bein HaShmoshes Nama Nigzer. So answers the Gemara, says Rabba, no, because Bein HaShmoshes is near Shkia. In other words, that means it just came off the fire. Astam Kedeiros are already they are already boiling hot. If the time of Bein HaShmoshes passed and you didn't yet insulate, now it's dark, you want to insulate, now the pot cooled off a little bit. Here, a person might be tempted and they might, God forbid, warm it up quickly and then insulate it. But during the Bein HaShmoshes, since it's so close to Friday afternoon, that means that it was warm, beheted, it's still that warm that we're not going to suspect that for you to make that little bit of an extra warming up, you're going to fly to fire. You definitely will not do that. So here we go, Chevra, insulating food in materials that don't add heat is allowed, not only Erev Shabbos, but even Ben Hashmoshes. Amar Rava says, Rava, turning off Lama Dalad Amad Beis, what about insulating in something that adds to heat? You know, salt has a lot of powers, including if you insulate something in salt, it actually not only keeps the heat, it adds to the heat. Even not only you can't do it Ben Hashmoshes, can't even do it Friday afternoon. Now, that is not something that's inferred from our Mishnah at all, but Rashi on the top, right, he quotes Daf Mem Zayin Amud Beis. We'll be learning that befedish, that you may not do hatmana, the davar hamoisav hevel, even on Friday. Why not? So it explains Rava, because one of the items that add heat, salt, shkoyach, but you can have ash. And ash sometimes can still have living fire in it. And if there's living fire in it, then you can't do it Friday afternoon. The Gemara's question is, why not? Still, it's Friday afternoon. Answers the Gemara, if you're going to leave it in this ash that might have some coals that are still burning, well, you're not leaving it for 1 minute. It's going into Shabbos. In Shabbos, those coals still might be alive. And back to the Yechata B'Gacholom, you might stoke it to make sure that the ashes stay hotter. And because of that, even if you are not using remetz, you're using salt, anything that's moisef hevel may not be used, even mi ba'oid yoy. A lot more on this sugya, God willing, in the subsequent perakim. All right, now we're coming back to Ben Hashmoshes. Guys, there's here in Psachim, very important sugya of what is Ben Hashmoshes, from when and until when does it go, which really speaks to when a shkia, how do you define shkia? How do you define Seis HaKeichav? Says the Gemara, Tanach Rabbanan. Tanach Rabbanan Bein Hashmoshes. The Brisa says Bein Hashmoshes is a period of time that has in it several uncertainties. Uncertainty number one is Safek min hayoim u'min halayla. It's a period of time that is day and night together, or it's maybe day and night together. Doubt number two, uncertainty number two, Safek kol min hayoim. It might be completely day. Doubt, uncertainty number three, it might be completely night. And as the Marsha explains, that Bein Hashmoshes is a time of transition. And Vadai, for sure, during the time of Bein Hashmoshes, we go from day until night. But we don't know exactly when that transition is happening. So if you put your finger on any period during the Bein Hashmoshes time, you might have put your finger on day, you might have put your finger on the night, or you might have put your finger on the moment of this transition, which is both day and night. How about that? Just to know, both day and night together is a very mystical concept. The concept of the middle column, the concept of a corner, the concept of Chatzois by Mitzrayim. It's really how above time touches time for a moment, and therefore day and night can touch together. Because if you wouldn't have that concept, then how can you go from one to the opposite? There has to be a point that has in it both. And what is both day and night? Something which is above day and night. V'chulei, but that's a whole very deep conversation. But the words of Chazal here in Nigla is that it might be day and night together. It might only be day, it might only be night. And therefore, what's the bottom line? Well, halacha, so we place upon it the stringencies of 2 days. Because since it might be day or it might be night, so let's go Sunday, Monday. Bein Hashmoshes between Sunday and Monday. Halachically, we say, it's Sunday and Monday. Now, Lamai Nafkamina, Gemara is going to ask that in a moment, and we're going to have an opportunity to review Hilchos Zav. But before we get that, let's continue with the Brisa. There's Bein Hashmoshes. From when is Bein Hashmoshes? Says the Brisa, Mishet Tishka Hachama, from when the sun goes down. Now, before we go on, how do you define from when the sun goes down? So the pshat of the sun going down is there's the disk of the sun, and when that goes under the horizon, that's Shkias HaChama. So understands most of the Rishonim. The problem with this will be, I'm going to get a little step ahead of me, is that when we're going to have the shiurim of the time of Bein Hashmoshes, and we're going to be learning about it occupies the 2/3 of a meal. In other words, a mil is a distance. It takes people anywhere between 18 minutes or 22 and a half minutes or 24 minutes to walk a mil. So let's say 3/4 of the time that it takes you to walk a mil is a time of Ben Hashmoshes. And we're going to go through these numbers in a lot more detail soon. Let's say it's 13 and a half minutes. The Tosfos and Daf Lamed Hey quotes from Psachim that says that between Shkia and dark is the time that it takes to walk 4 mil. Again, if the time that it takes to walk 1 mil is 18 minutes, then the time that it takes to walk 4 mil is 72 minutes. It doesn't seem to be aligned at all with the Baraisa here on Shabbos. So that's the big stira. Shabbos Lamed Dalet and Psachim Daf Tzadik Dalet. How much time is Ben Hashmoshes? And that's the famous, just quoting him now. We have to learn this again tomorrow, and we're going to learn this again in Psachim, but on the second Tosfos on Daf Lamed Hey. In Tosfos Divrei HaMaschal Trei Tilsa Mil, another sheet, 2/3 of a mil. And V'omer Rabbeinu Tam, that in Psachim, when we're speaking about 4 mil, we are going from the beginning of Shkia until night. From when the disk goes under the horizon until night, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, it takes 72 minutes. Here, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, when the Braisa says Mishet Tishka Chama, the Rabbeinu Tam introduces a Chiddush. There are 2 Shkiyas. There's the first Shkia, which is when the disk of the sun goes under the horizon, and then there is the second Shkia, and we are referring to the second Shkia. The second Shkia, right, is 4 mil minus 3/4 of a mil, or 4 mil minus 2/3 of a mil. The end of the 72 minutes, according to the Rabbeinu Tam, is called Ben Hashmoshes. We're not going to be learning the sugya according to the Rabbeinu Tam. Nowadays, I mean, this, throughout the Jewish history, we went back and forth from the times of the Gra ad until now. We go by the regular Shkia. That Shkia is there's one Shkia, and Ben Hashmoshes begins right after Shkia. There is a very important letter from the Alter Rebbe printed in the Sidurim, where the Alter Rebbe doesn't subscribe to the sheet of all others that you count the Shkia from when the disk of the sun disappears beneath the horizon, and the Alter Rebbe explains why, and the Alter Rebbe adds around 3 halachic minutes, 3 or 4 halachic minutes. I'm saying the word halacha because it's not going on the minutes of our clock. This is a very important concept to know. Guys, don't use this halacha lamaisa. But we in Lubavitch and many people who have the wisdom of following the psak of the Alter Rebbe know that Shkia is really 3 or 4 minutes after you see the Shkia on your calendars. And that's huge because just lamashal for the married men and women. If a woman forgot to make a hefsek tara, but it's a mama Shkia. So she makes a hefsek and she calls up a rav and she gives a time. She made the hefsek tara 7:03. And you see that on your zmanim, the Shkia was 7:01. The hefsek tara was good. By the way, regarding this, there's a tshuva of Rav Moshe. Again, we're not speaking all halacha l'maisa, but he actually gives, if I'm not mistaken, up to 9 minutes after Shkia. We do not rely on Rav Moshe, we meaning in Lubavitch. But the concept that according to the Alter Rebbe, Shkia begins a few minutes later, that's a later discussion, and that's also very negei l'maisa. Coming back to us, we're not going to learn like the Rabbeinu Tam. The Shkia is the first Shkia, or there's only one Shkia. Shkia is when the sun goes under the horizon, like the Alter Rebbe says, whatever you think it is, add a few minutes. And until when, so he says, Kolzman. From then until Kolzman Shepnei Mizrach Ma'adimim, as long as the eastern horizon is still reddish. Now hold on, the sun goes down on the west, Emes. But when the sun goes down on the west, the sky right above the western horizon is very red. It's so red that it throws some of its redness to the eastern horizon. And the Gemara is going to define this wording a little bit more on Daf Lamed Hey, but that's the Nakuda. You're looking at the western horizon, but it's so red there that even the Pnei Mizrach is reddish. That's Ben Hashmoshes. Now, I'm going to begin reading the Braisa as we read it in the Havamina, and it's going to be fine-tuned according to Amachloikes Amayraim in a couple of lines from now. Now, Hichsev Hatachtoin v'lo Hichsev Ha'elyain. So from then, when it sets, the Pnei Mizrach is Madimin. Then the Braisa continues. That would, when you read this line, you would think that the moment the Pnei Mizrach is not red, that's the end of Ben Hashmoshes. But now the Braisa continues. And he says like this, there's the bottom of the eastern horizon now. And then you have the middle of the sky. Which part of the sky you think gets dark first? The bottom, the part of the sky that's closest to the eastern horizon, because the sun goes down in the west. The furthest is the east. Yeah, it begins to get red because it's reflecting off the redness of the west. And then it gets dark. Now, there are times that the eastern horizon is already dark, but if you look up a little bit, it's not dark yet. So, if the bottom is ashamed, it's darkened, but the top of the sky is still not dark, that's Ben Hashmashes. It doesn't flow well because the Brisa says Ben Hashmashes is as long as the eastern horizon is red. That's mashma. If it's not red, you're already out of Ben Hashmashes. You already entered night. Then we're going to see in the Gemara how to learn the Brisa. The third sheet is Hichsev ha'elyon v'hishval ha'tachton. If the middle of the sky, you look up, and it is equally black like the eastern horizon. Even though the west is still, you still see some lightish, but if the middle of the sky and the eastern horizon are equally dark, that's night. These are the words of Rabbi Yehuda. Again, a lot more will be defined in a moment. Nechemia says, let me tell you, don't give me this with the red, with the dark, with the up, with the down. Shkia is when the sun sets, like the Alter Rebbe says, of 3 minutes afterwards, and it's Kadesh Yahalach Adam Mishatishka Chama Chatzi Mil. Cheshbon, how long does it take for you to walk a half a mil? A mil is a measurement of space. Machloik is big. Machloik is how long does it take to walk a mil? I'll give you the two extremities because you have many opinions. It's 18 minutes. That's the 18 minutes for candle lighting. 24 minutes. There are other shiurim. There's a 22.5 minute. There are other shiurim. But let's just speak about the 18 and the 24. So if it's 24 minutes, 12 minutes. I mean, Shkia, 12 minutes is Ben Hashmashes, then it's night. If a meal is 18 minutes, then you have yourself 9 minutes. After 9 minutes, it's night. So holds the Tanach of Nechemia. Rabbi Yossi says, Ben Hashmashes kehedafayim. Guys, we had this in Barachas. Now, Rabbi Yossi is not saying, unlike the Tanakama, he agrees that during this time that it takes you to blink, there is a transition period. That time itself is either fully day. There's a part of that that's day. There's a part of that that's night. There's a part of that that is the time of the transition. It's a piece of time that's day and night. But all of that takes kehedafayim, meaning zed nichnas v'zayoytza. V'iyef shel ha'avadolav. One comes in and one goes out. Interesting lashon, right? You would think, right? You would say that the day goes out and the night comes in. Doesn't word it that way. He says zed nichnas v'zayoytza. It's a good deal of this. But still he agrees that there's three doubts, there's three uncertainties, but it doesn't occupy the time that you say. Okay, before we analyze Rabbi Yehuda's shiur, Amar Mar, the Braisa began by telling you that since there's a doubt, Matilde oisoi l'choimer shnei yamin. So Amar Mar Matilde l'choimer shnei yamin, la yelchas Amar Afon B'rei Rabbi Shua le'inyan tuma. Kidetran. Here we go back to Nida a little bit. What do we have in Zovin? What do we learn? We learn like this, that there's a certain seminal emission, and we have details, I think it was on Daf Lamed Dalid, over there in Nida, that he describes the texture of that semen, but there is a seminal emission known as a natural seminal emission, that is also tummy on the level of an Av, but the person who was Moitzi Zera simply needs to go to the mikvah and head of Shemesh, and you're good. If a person has an unnatural seminal emission, the zera is different. It comes out without a kishoy, v'chulei, as we learned in Nida. If it only happened one time, then the status of the person is just like someone who was moitzi zera. But if it happened 2 times, either on the same day or dafka on 2 consecutive days, Sunday and Monday, not Sunday and Tuesday, Sunday and Monday, then the person becomes a zav. Now he needs to have shivas nikiyim. He has a much greater level of tuma. He's matama mishkav Moshe. Remember that the zav has to go to Mayim Chaim v'chulei. If he has 3 such emissions, either on the same day or on 2 consecutive days, or on 3 consecutive days, not 2 on Sunday and 1 on Tuesday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, never you had a full day going by without there being an emission, and you have a total of 3 or more. Now, not only you see Tomei as the zav of 2, but he also has to bring karbanos, right, the bird karbanos at the end of on the 8th day, after the 7 clean days. Now, says the Mishnah, listen to this on one more din. If a zav has a extended emission, it began from Sunday and it went into Monday, never stopped. but it went from Sunday into Monday. It kept on leaving his body. Being that he had that emission during 2 days, we don't view it as one emission, we view it as 2 emissions. Now let's put all these pieces of the puzzle together. Rosh Neyomim Bein Hashmashos. This Chacham had a Re'iyah, Sunday, Monday Bein Hashmashos, 1 Re'iyah during the whole Bein Hashmashos, and then he had another emission Monday, Tuesday during the whole Bein Hashmashos. Now, Chavra, think about what might happen over. I'll speak it out by heart. If we say Bein Hashmashos is day, if we say Ben Hashmashos is day, then we can say that when there's the Re'iyah of Sunday and Monday was Sundays. Let's use the words of the Maharsha that Ben Hashmashos is a time of transition. We just don't know exactly when the transition is happening. So if something happens during the time of Ben Hashmashos, it might have happened during the daytime. It might have happened during the transition time. It might have happened during the nighttime. Could be the Sunday, Monday, Ben Hashmashos was day. The Monday, Tuesday was night, was Tuesday. If that happened, you know what? He's not even tummy. Because the first Re'iyah was on Sunday. He has a din of a person who was Moitzi Zera. The second omission was on Tuesday. There was a whole day break in between. He might not even be tummy, but he might be tummy. Why might he be tummy? Because both Ben Hashmashos could have the din of night. So then he saw it Monday, Tuesday. Both Ben Hashmashos could have been day, then he saw it Sunday, Monday. Treat it inside. So there's a suffix to Tumah. And furthermore, not only he might be Tumah or not, but let me tell you something, he might even be Chayv a carbon. Why would that be? Because if the one on Sunday was during the transition time of the Bein Hashmashos, where it's both day and night, then the first Re'iyah was Sunday, Monday. And then the next Re'iyah was on Tuesday. Boom. So there you go. Or even if the next Re'iyah was on Monday, he saw 2 Re'iyahs on the same Monday. So Bekitza, we have over here maybe a doubt for a carbon. When it comes to doubts of carbonis, we already learned the dinim about that. When it comes to an oila, simple solution, you make a tanai, right? And chatos was the chiddush that a suffix of a chatos or oif may be offered. Okay. Now, likewise, if there was only one re'iyah during one Bein Hashmashos, Sunday, Monday, so then maybe, again, like we mentioned, maybe he's tamei, because maybe it went from, it's Sunday and Monday, so there's 2 re'iyahs. Or maybe it's only day, or maybe it's only night, there's only 1 year. So that's just an example of one case where since Bein Hashmashos is a suffix, we put on the time the doubt of both days. And therefore, if again, a guy sees a Ziva emission during Bein Hashmashos, so then there's a suffix whether he's tummy, and therefore you have to be machmer. He needs shivas nekiyam v'chulei v'chulei. Okay, now let's analyze the words of Rabbi Yehuda. That you began saying is which implies the moment the eastern horizon is not reddened from the western horizon, the moment the eastern horizon is dark, even though the sky above is still light, it's no longer Ben Hashmashos. Even though it's already night. But then in the next breath you say that if still it's still Ben Hashmashos. So we have 2 answers. Very important. Rabba versus Rabbi Yosef. Amar Rabba, in the name of Rabbi Yehuda, in the name of Shmuel, you got to mix both statements in the Resha together. You combine them together. Ezel Ben Hashmashos from Shkias Achama. And in the beginning of that Ben Hashmashos will be Kozman Shopnei Mizrach Madimim. And then it doesn't end when the eastern horizon goes dark. No, it continues. And even if even during the next period where the eastern horizon is already dark, as long as the sky above is still not dark, Nami Ben Hashmashos. However, then it's night. Okay. Rabbi Yosef Amar, and now it's amazing. Rabbi Yosef, who's arguing with Rabba, is quoting the same Rabbi Yehuda in the name of the same Shmuel. Hachi Katani. Mishatishka Chama calls man Shepenem Yismach Madimim is Yoim. Rabbi Yosef is teaching Pshat in Rabbi Yehuda that there is a machlokes when a shkia. And he's saying that even if you can't see the sun, because the sun is already under the horizon, but if the eastern horizon is so reddened, because it's reflecting the redness of the western horizon, it's not even shkia yet. That's day. It's only when the shkia begins. Shkia begins when the eastern horizon is dark. Why is it not night? Because because you look up, it's still lit up. That is Bein Hashmashos. Notice they have both. Seis is the same time for them. Question is, when is Shkia? So Rabbi Yosef has a narrower time for Bein Hashmashas. He doesn't end it earlier, my friends. He begins it later. And now the Gemara says, the Ifnor we learned, it was stated, this is a statement of Amayroyim, shiur Bein Hashmashas, big kama, how long is it? Omar Rabba, again, in the name of Rabbi, in the name of Shmuel, shloisha chalkei mil, 3 portions of a mil. Now, when you hear these words, what do you think? What do you mean 3 portions of a mil? Like the Gemara, my gimel chalkei mil. If every portion of a mil means a half a mil, so what would 3 halves? 3 halves is 1.5. So speak 1.5. Ilay mentalsi pilga mila, name a milomechs. Ella tlase tilsemila, 3/3 of a mil. So why 3/3? Say 1 mil. Name a mil. Ella, what that means is tlase rivoy mila, 3/4 of a mil. Rabba says that Bein Hashmashas takes up 3/4 of a mil. And here you go, my friends. Let's just go with 18 and 24. Math. If a mil is, if it takes you to walk 18 minutes to cover a mil, then 3/4 of a mil is 13.5 minutes. That is the Veltische Seis, right? People daven Maidiv, you want to say the Shema and not Maidiv, especially the Shema when it's dark. Look at Shkia, they add 13.5 minutes and you're good to go. I know many people are more lenient. I'm just saying this is a standard shiur. We are much more. The Alter Rebbe wrote a letter. We just quoted the Alter Rebbe that not only does the Alter Rebbe have a later Shkia by a few minutes, the Alter Rebbe has other chumras in this letter, and the Alter Rebbe considers says here in LA around to be consistent 31 minutes after Shkia. Now that's after the Shkia and the Zmanim. I'm already including the additional 3 minutes. Okay, but let's come back over here. So it's either 3/4 of a meal is 13.5 minutes. If a meal is a meal of 24 minutes, what's 3/4 of 24, my friends? 18. However, Rabbi Yosef, Shmuel, he has a smaller time for the Bein Hashmashas. He says it's 2 parts of a meal. And here again, the Gemara asks, what do you mean? 2 halves. So say 1 meal. 2 halves is 1 whole. Ella means 2/4. So say half. He means 2/3 of a meal. Now, what's the cheshbon here, my friends? 2/3 of a meal. If a meal is 18 minutes, 2/3 of a meal is 12 minutes. If a meal is 24 minutes, then 2/3 of a meal is 16 minutes. So here you see that the Rabbi Yosef's Bein Hashmashas is shorter, but it's important to note that they don't end at different times. They begin at different times. And my benayu, how much time is there in between them? Ik benayu palga de danka, a half of a 6, which means a 12th of a mil, which is anywhere between 1.5 and a 2-minute difference, as we gave the numbers, and God willing to be continued. All right, Chabad, we're good? We're good. What is Jonathan?
Yeah, Rabbi.
Who's that?
Was that Jonathan?
No, came
No,
on.
that's not me.
Sorry. All right. Because we
How's it gonna be?
we have the Rabbeinu Tam on Daf Yomi, guys. Good to remember this Rabbeinu Tam. The only people today that go by this are the Hasidic, only when it comes to Atzois HaShabbos. Other than that,